Hey there, everyone. Jason here. I'm going to double check to make sure we are live. So I know the one time I don't check is the one time it won't show up. Don't want you to miss out on this episode. There we are. We are good to go. Always nice to see when that pops up like it should. So, hey there. I'm Jason Logston, and this is Exploring Sous Vide, all about helping you get the most out of your sous vide machine while talking to some of the biggest names in the industry. The sponsor of today's episode is the ISVA Date Night Showcase. I'm excited for this. It's coming up on January 30th. It's a free sous vide showcase that we've been doing every month with Valentine's Day right around the corner. This showcase is going to be a great opportunity to get some fresh ideas for that special meal to impress your special someone. Join 6 to 8 talented cooks as they demonstrate some of their favorite ways to spell out love on a plate. You can sign up for free at theisva.net/date night. And remember that all these episodes that we are recording are available as a podcast on all of your favorite podcast players, or you can join us live every Thursday when we record these episodes. You can ask the guest questions, talk to the other cooks in the comments, and even see our smiling faces. So join us Thursdays at afmeasy.com/show. And if you're joining us now, say hi in the comments. Let us know where you are from and what you've been cooking lately. So on with the show. When many people think of professional sous vide machines, one of the first brands that comes to mind is PolyScience. From working with some of the best kitchens in the world to creating custom tools for chefs to achieve their culinary visions, PolyScience is continually at the forefront of applying technology in the kitchen. And when PolyScience is there, more often than not, so is today's guest. He is the most guested person on the Exploring Sous Vide show, and it's always great having him here. He is the head chef of PolyScience, and he's responsible for creating the vast majority of their cooking content. His background as a chef has afforded him the opportunity to be a product expert on all their culinary tools, from both the engineering and technical aspects to the culinary applications. Put that together, and you have someone who is able to explain the products in great depth from multiple perspectives and package it in a way that's beautiful, inspirational, and educational. He's always around with a cocktail in his hand. I can't wait to learn from today's guest, who is here today for a very special Exploring Sous Vide episode with a demo of their latest machine. Please help me welcome the always amazing Chef David Pietranczyk. Chef, welcome to Exploring Sous Vide.
Hey, buddy. Thank you for that awesome intro, as always. Am I really the most guested person on the show?
Yeah, I think this is your fourth time on now. I've had AJ on twice. She's the only other repeat visitor so far.
Nice. Yeah, I'm honored to be as such.
We had the power partnership on Tuesday on a special episode with AJ and Gerard. Both came on to talk about International Sous Vide Day. So that was a little intimidating there.
Nice. I got to connect with the folks over at Cuisine Solutions. I owe them a conversation. They reached out to us, and we'll definitely be part of International Sous Vide Day in some point. They always host one heck of an event. Did we run into each other? We did run into each other last year in Washington.
Yeah, last year was perfect.
Actually, no, that was 2 years ago. 2 years ago, not last year. Year before.
I think both years we've run into each other, but I think last year was the year that we had just had like our big year, like what can we do together? So we had like handled all of our business, and then we all showed up at International Sous Vide Day, and we could just drink and have fun and just hang out and not have to do any networking.
Yeah, AJ's sous vide absinthe was absolutely delicious.
Yes,
that was amazing. That recipe, she still owes it to me. That's all right. I know where to find her.
Always hoarding her knowledge.
Hey, yeah, absolutely. I defer to her. When people ask me a question I don't know the answer to, she's the first person I go to. Hey, how's the connection? I just realized that I am not on my 5G band. Are we doing okay, or am I laggy?
It's a little bit of a lag. There's definitely a slight delay there, which is why I talk over you occasionally right now. It's not because I don't find you interesting.
Sure. Give me a second. Let me disconnect, and I'll come back in.
All right, cool. While he's doing that, I'll tell you about one of the fun
All right.
things that we're doing for International Sous Vide Day. We are running a international podcasting panel, which should be really cool. We have some great chefs coming on. We have Tiago coming to us from America with a focus on South American cuisine. We have Dale Prince coming to us from Australia. We have Kevin and Carmen Koo joining us from Canada with a focus on Asian cuisine. And we have Stefan Boer coming on from the Netherlands with a focus on Italian cuisine. So we have, I think, 5 countries and like 8 different cuisines that we're going to be covering. So if you have questions for any of our panelists, please let us know. We're going to be recording it live from all around the globe, which should be really cool. It's fun trying to come up with a good time for us to that we could fit in everyone. I think Mike has the link. You can put that in the comments, but ask some questions. We'd love to have questions from around the globe to ask our amazing panelists. And that's going to be broadcast on International Sous Vide Day to help kick it off with CREA and Cuisine Solutions. We were honored they asked us to put that together for them. We'll try Dave's stream now. How's that, Dave?
I think that should be a bit better. Now we're on 5G, so we should be square. So yeah, whenever you're ready, we can get into it.
Perfect. So I start off every episode asking what people it's like around their dinner table, but you've answered that like 4 times. So just tell us something interesting that you have cooked lately. That was fun.
Okay, so I've actually been obsessed. I don't know if it's nearby. I've been obsessed with 2 things. One, ice cream. There's an amazing book by Dana Cree called Hello, My Name is Ice Cream, I think it is. That book is phenomenal, and it's super excited about learning everything about ice cream. It's a topic that I've always wanted to know more about, and I've tried to dabble in before, but I mean, I can make ice cream, but I want to make ice cream really well. And that book has so much awesome information, and so I've been super into that. My latest venture from there was a bourbon ice cream with a butterscotch ripple and salted butter pecans. Right. And that was absolutely delicious. Absolutely delicious. My wife's birthday is coming up, so I'll be making some pistachio ice cream or some, was it Neapolitan, or what's the other one? What's the one that has pistachio? It's not Neapolitan.
I don't know.
Somebody comment, drop it in the comments. There's Neapolitan, but that's strawberry, chocolate, and vanilla. Then there's chocolate, pistachio, strawberry. I can't remember the name of it. Anywho, so I'm into that.
That book was Hello, My Name is Ice Cream.
2 seconds. I'm gonna grab it. Yeah, it's Hello, My Name is Ice Cream, and the other one.
Ooh, Spumoni.
Spumoni, exactly. Here we go. Here's the other one. So,
commenters always coming through in the clutch when questions are asked of them.
So this is it. This is Hello, My Name is Ice Cream by Dana Cree.
I love that cover.
It's super cool, and there's all things about ice cream science in here, and it really gives you it teaches you the way I prefer to learn, which is and teach, which is here's the building blocks, here's what you can do with them, and go do your thing. There are complete recipes for what she refers to as composed scoops, so that includes the sauce or condiment or whatever it is. In that case, the butterscotch ripple, and the mix-ins. In that case, the pecans. But she gives you all of those building blocks, and she does it, and it's in grams as well, which I'm a big fan of. And then there's just a huge, so much on ice cream science, different fats, different sugars, different texture agents, different coloring. Awesome ice cream book.
Nice. I don't know if you're a member of the group. I haven't been in it, but Lloyd Cupicio and I think Rosemary Simpson help run Ice Cream Dummies on Facebook. And my understanding is they go into a lot of ice cream. Knowing Lloyd, I would assume there's a lot of deep dives into obscure ice cream science in it.
I actually have. I don't know if you read his bit on pasteurization and cooking. He cooked something, I don't know, of an obscene thickness, like 3 inches and whatever. And he wrote all about like log reduction of pathogens and stuff like that, and like on a very in-depth level. And I was like, damn, good job, Lloyd. Proud of you.
Yeah, his latest we'll talk about a little bit today because he did the probing and the temperature gradient in, I think it was a 5-inch thick prime rib, and so he heated it up and how long it took and everything.
Yes, that was it. And it's a very lengthy read. I must admit, I did kind of grab the cliff notes, but it was great. It was really good. The other thing that I'm super into right now is this Cooking for Good Times by Paul Kahn. So there's a restaurant here in Chicago called Avec. He also owns, oh my gosh, Paul Kahn's been around since before I started cooking. He's had Blackbird, Avec, Publican Quality Meats, Publican Quality Bread, Dove's Luncheonette, Pacific Standard Time. I mean, the guy's just, I mean, he's a powerhouse in Chicago. And all of his restaurants do a really great job. But a lot of these recipes focus on my favorite restaurant of his, which is Avec. And he's got a lot of recipes in there, signature recipes from the restaurant, the brandade, the dates, the chorizo stuffed dates, the truffle taleggio focaccia. And he's got like each chapter is based on like one thing that you could do to really impress people when they come over, but also kind of cook to have a good time. So it starts off with like making a snack to eat while you're cooking, grabbing a drink while you cook. So then he does some stuff with pairings. Then it's like make some bread, and he's got a bread recipe, make a salad, braise some pork, roast a fish, grill a steak, all of those things. So that's kind of how the chapters are, and he teaches you a fundamental technique: how to braise pork, how to grill a fish, how to cook a steak, and then there's iterations of each of those of different dishes using that fundamental technique. So again, that's kind of like a way that I like to learn and teach. So I'm really into this book right now.
I love that. The concept has always been one of my favorites, that it's like, here is a technique, not recipes necessarily. And like, there's recipes to help illustrate what the technique is, but it's not necessarily follow this recipe every time you're cooking. It's, I'm going to teach you how to do this really cool thing, and then you can make it your own.
Yeah, I could give you a grapefruit curd recipe, but if you can make lemon curd, guess what? You can make orange, lemon, grapefruit curd, use a curd, whatever curd you want, as long as you understand how to make curd, right? So that's kind of one of the examples that I always use. It's just, the Mr. Potato Head of flavors, right? You just find, okay, I'm doing this, and then what else can I change out?
That's awesome. Yeah, it's always been the way that I've learned cooking, and a lot of my books, especially my earlier ones, were all about, here's the technique, and I'll teach you how to make a soy lecithin foam, but I'm not going to teach you how to make a 12-step consomme of, lamb consomme like you would in a Michelin restaurant. I'll teach you how to use soy sauce with it, and then you can do whatever the hell you want down the road.
Yeah. All right. So you want to get into it?
Yeah, I'm excited for this. So we're talking about the HydroPro Plus today. We talked about the Hydro Pro before. The Plus is a little bit different, but for those that weren't here for that episode, tell us about the Hydro Pro in general and the whole new kind of line you have coming out. It's an amazing machine.
Yep. So for those of you who didn't see it previously, we've launched new immersion circulators. This marks the 15-year anniversary since PolyScience started making sous vide immersion circulators, not making them, but making them available to the chef market. In 2005, we had our first call from a chef, and we were the first company to make sous vide immersion circulators for sous vide cooking and make them available to chefs and home enthusiasts. A little bit inaccessible at that time with the price point of like $1,400, but we were the first people to say, all right, you want to cook with this thing? Here you go. Have at it. So the Hydro Pro is available now. We released that in November. That's available literally right now. And the Hydro Pro Plus will be available super soon. We're just waiting on actually our website right now. Our add to cart functionality is down as we do some improvements and stuff like that to our website. So as soon as that issue is rectified and we can process orders again, we'll probably have these available.
And I did slack off here. People were saying hi in the comments. I was so enthralled by picturing ice cream that I forgot to even give shout outs to the people joining us. Tiago is here, says first. Mike Lashardy from the ISVA. Richard Jensen's tuning in from Dallas Fort Worth. How's it going, Richard? We got Darren Wilson saying hi. Anyone else, if you're joining in, I see there's a lot more viewers than just them. Say hi in the comments. Let us know where you're from, what you've been up to lately, because it's great. It's great seeing the wide range of people that we always have joining us.
Yep.
And Mike's giving you a hard time. He says, wow, it only took you guys like 34 years after Bruno developed sous vide to put out your circulator.
Hey, nobody was asking for it. At that time, people were using these things for analyzing poop, like literally. So there was not a market for that. There's not a market for that. Bruno was doing things in a very niche setting, and then it was Matthias Mergis, who was a chef de cuisine of a restaurant in Chicago at that time called Charlie Trotter's. At that time, Charlie Trotter's was the equivalent of French Laundry in Chicago before Michelin stars in the United States were even a thing. And he said, hey, I've got this idea, because he was actually staging in France. And he saw what Bruno had done at Maison Trois Gras. I'm going to totally butcher that, but there you have it. One of those restaurants Bruno worked with. Matthias saw it, came back to the States and said, hey, I have to find somebody to get one of these devices. And literally everybody he called all of our competitors before us, and they all told him, like, you're crazy, you're out of your mind, you don't use these for that we're not going to sell it to you. And we were lucky because the lady who answered the phone was like, well, I don't know what you're talking about, but my boss Philip likes to cook, so I'll put you through to him. And then, it was dumb luck, and just us. Yeah, we're into it. Let's see what's out there.
Philip's like, yeah, I will sell you one if you let me eat your food. That'd be a fair trade. Literally,
Charlie Trotter's was literally down the street, a long way down the street, but literally down the street. And he just went over there with knocked the back door and popped in with the circulator. And that's kind of how it all began.
That's awesome. We got Diane Markman joining us from Delaware. We got D-Mick coming in from the UK. How's it going? We got we got Aaron Gupta from Toronto. He just did some Hakka chili chicken sous vide. Sounds tasty. Paul McCreary's joining us from Babcock Ranch, Florida. Mike Bailey from North Dakota. Nice to see you all joining us. Be sure to ask questions in the comments and put Dave on the hot seat. It's always great to grill him. So now I'll let you get back to it. Now that I've acknowledged our wonderful fans that are joining us here, didn't want to give them the cold shoulder.
No, yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you all for tuning in. And please do ask questions. Stop me at any point. If I start to talk too fast, mumble, or stutter, please tell Jason to slap me upside the head. So HydroPro Plus. So both of them feature Sous Vide Toolbox, which is a built-in guided cooking experience. So basically, you tell us what it is you're cooking, and we'll give you a safe recommendation on cooking times and temperatures, but specific to the thermal conductivity of your specific food. So we ask you, what shape is it? How thick is it? Is it fresh or frozen? And a few other questions to give you a very accurate mathematical calculation of how long that food is going to take to cook, based on your given temperature and your thermal conductivity. This unit that we're going to show off today, the HydroPro Plus, takes it a little bit further with the ability to cook with a probe for delta cooking and HACCP data logging. These are the most robust circulators we've ever designed. They're IPX7 waterproof, so for cleaning, and also if you happen to drop it in the bath, we've all done it, but nobody admits to it. It's going to be totally fine. What else? It's got a stainless design. From the neck down, it's got a Gorilla Glass screen. I don't think it's actually Gorilla Glass, but it is a very shatter resistant glass. Doesn't mean you can't break it, but it's quite robust.
Challenge accepted.
Oh gosh, no! As soon as I said it, I was like, I'm gonna regret this.
Find out the exact force resistance that glass panel has when striking it with a hammer.
So let's talk about it. So just as an example, the test that we have to pass to get the IPX7 water resistant certification, and somebody will fact check me on this, but it has to be dropped from a height of 5 feet in 3 random orientations, or it's 3 feet in 5 random orientations, I forget, but from high enough onto a hard surface onto a hard surface, and then still be waterproof. And we passed that. So it is really quite robust. I mean, we really beat the heck out of these things in life testing, and they're still waterproof. They still run, and we over-engineered the heck out of them. So,
I love how firm they are. If you do want to figure out exactly how much it breaks, we should talk to Scott Heibendinger. He, when I had him on, I was like, "What's your favorite kitchen robot?" And he's like, "Well, here's one that I built." And he like pulled it out of his drawer, and it was like, it measures the texture and like how squishy meat is. And I was like, "That's he just built it because he wanted a robot."
Yep, we actually talked about that at Sous Vide Summit last year because he released some content about that, and like because you say soft, supple, unctuous, like these words, there's not a definitive, like it's very hard to quantify those words. So we built something that says, okay, definitively this is how soft something is, or based on like chewing or whatever. But knowing him, he'd probably just cut the thing in half and take a cross section photo of it.
It's like the Squishyville scale.
Oh yeah, on his little whatever machine. Yeah, his little automatic chompers. Yeah.
Okay, back to the you could throw it on the ground, dunk it in the water, and it's still gonna run. Not even Mike can break it on accident. But
wait, there's more. They're 1450 watt heaters. I know people want to know the tech specs. Everybody likes to know, Tim the Toolman Taylor, how much power, 1450 watt heater, 17 liter per minute flow rate, 45 liter max bath volume, which frankly, in my opinion, I think a lot of people, and I won't name names, but I think a lot of companies like to overspec how large of a bath you can safely cook within an appliance. And maybe if just like a car, my car says it has 310 horsepower. No, it doesn't, not at the wheels. So if you're going to cook, someone says they got a 90 liter bath. Yeah, well, guess what? Fill it up with, 60, 70 pounds of cold proteins, and then tell me that you're still stable in a 90 liter bath. So in full cooking mode, we say 45 liters, 12 gallons is an appropriate cooking volume for this guy. They're NSF approved, so it's got no hard lines or crevices where it can harbor bacteria and create a potentially hazardous cooking environment. Toolless disassembly. This is actually one of my favorite things here. So it's got this quick release clamp. You just pull off the side, and then the circulator unclamps, so you can just kind of wipe it down. The clamp comes off completely. To get into the internals, you simply just pull off the base, and then pull out the impeller. It's held in by magnet. Slip it back in, put the foot back on. She's ready to go. So I love that about it.
Even Darren would have no excuse to not clean his equipment with it being that easy.
Is Darren notorious for that? I didn't know he had that reputation. Shame, Darren.
It's been a running joke that he hasn't cleaned certain equipment that doesn't need to be named during this episode. But yeah, he lets it build up occasionally. It sounds like he's too busy cooking all that meat.
So I worked at a restaurant where we were descaling our circulator like 3 times a week. The water was so hard. We had such problems, everything with the espresso machine, just a water heater for drip, like any water heating device that we had, we were descaling them constantly. It was so bad. So we would run vinegar bath like all the time on these. This actually has both the HydroPro and HydroPro Plus have the descale function built in. So it'll walk you through making an acidulated bath of an appropriate concentration, and then it will run temperature and different flow speeds to kind of wash the interior and exterior of the appliance of scale. So that's pretty cool.
Awesome. What's your go-to vinegar solution for cleaning if you still have to do that?
I'm sure there's a very technical response, and that's probably what's programmed in here. But for me, I don't really overthink it. I use this 5% distilled white vinegar. It just, whatever you get off the shelf, nothing fancy. I take about a cup of it in a pot of about this size, throw a cup in there, fill it up with cold water, and then it runs at, I run it at 60 C, 60 C, 140 Fahrenheit for an hour. And I'm pretty sure that's the temperature and time that this runs for. So that's kind of like my go-to method. I don't ever mess with CLR or any of that harsh chemical stuff. You really don't need to. Enough vinegar, water, and enough time. I bring it up to 60, and then 60C, and then start an hour timer, it's plenty enough. And I've even found if you do a little pool party, if you stick a bunch of your circulators all in the same hot tub and run one of them, it's going to clean all of them.
Nice.
So yeah, I had a pool party Instagram post years ago. People loved it. And what else? Affordability. So these are the most affordable circulators we've ever produced. So these are new flagship, new standard in performance and value both. $499 for the Hydro Pro and $599 for the Hydro Pro Plus. So for $100 extra, you get a lot more bang from your buck and some extra features, which that's what today's all about, is diving into those.
And I about fell over when you first told me what the price was. I was hopeful that it was going to be less than $1,000, but I wasn't optimistic that it was going to be. And then when you drop that price, I was like, oh, that is 100% affordable, even for a home cook that's looking for a really good machine.
Yep, and that was the goal. We had to bring, especially in the commercial market, chefs. It's always about, there's a lot of things that come before small appliance purchases for the restaurant. The toilet's backed up. This guy is up, so now we got to find somebody, pay him a little extra to come in on the weekend, replace this guy. I don't know, the heater's just broke, whatever it is. Restaurants, the kitchen needs are like the last thing on the list. So we had to bring the price down. The Chef Series that slashed prices in half 10 years ago. But there's been so many advancements in the availability of technologies, like the technology that this thing pumps on, that was borrowed from drones, the impeller technology, induction motors. So like with the prevalence of drones now, that technology is super cheap. Now touchscreens are so prominent, they're cheaper than an LCD screen. So so there's just such good advancements in performance and technology at lower price. So you can make a really good unit at a very low cost. So we're super excited to offer that $499, $599 price point.
I always assumed the advances in drones were going to make my my kitchen appliances better.
Yeah, soon they'll start delivering you groceries. It's what I hear. What else? Yeah, that's it. I guess we should start talking about probe cooking and HACCP Manager app and all that stuff. Unless you got any questions or anybody else has any questions, we can start talking about HydroPro specific stuff.
Cool. I'm excited to dive into the probe and some of that. I think it should be good.
Cool. All right. So let's talk about what it is, what's required to cook with the probe, because this is a little bit of a foreign concept for people who haven't done it before. The idea is just kind of, it doesn't resonate because, the food's in a bag. How on earth do you take its temperature, right? So you need, this little guy right here is the catch to it all. This is a closed cell foam tape.
Magic tape.
This is magic tape. We sell this on our website, and you get a, I think it's a foot. You get a strip of it with the appliance, and I forget, with the HydroPro Plus, of course. So everything from this point forward that we're talking about, HydroPro Plus. So this comes with it. I forget the length. It might actually be 6 inches. It's somewhere between 6 inches and a foot. But this keeps the seal. This allows you to pierce the bag, and it doesn't maintain vacuum. Once you've pierced the bag, you release the vacuum, but it keeps the bag conformed enough to the product in a very good way that you still get excellent heat transfer, is the way I like to say it. So this allows you to pierce the bag, and then you need some sort of a probe. So this is our sous vide needle probe. I like to say it's technically a hypodermic probe, but it is a little bit thicker than that. I think it's 1.5 millimeters. I think is the diameter of it. I'd have to fact check myself on that, but it's not super thick. And during testing, we kind of explored. That was one thing that we worked on for a while, is how thick do we make it? And we could have made something that was hair thin. Problem is, you throw that in a drawer with, I don't know, your knives, or a chef throws it in his knife bag or whatever it is, that thing is going to get bent. They always do. You get very thin probes on the market, they break really, really easily, and we didn't want that. We want something that was built, that's kind of our thing, is things that are built for reliability and longevity, right? So we found that this was like the perfect balance. of that diameter. What else about the probe? Or that's kind of what you need to probe is a probe and the foam tape and some sort of device that reads the data that's being sent to it. So with this appliance, that's all internally here. So if you weren't buying this appliance, you would need to find yourself some closed cell foam tape. You would need something like this. This is kind of hold this up a little better. So this is called the K-type input. This is a thermocouple type probe. There's all types of probes, PT100, thermocouples, K-type, J-type, all sorts of different thermometers. The most often used for kitchen use, even if you have something like a thermopen, that's called a thermocouple. Something like this is kind of what you find on the industrial side, and you would pair it with something like this. This is a data meter, and this will accept those specific type of inputs, and you have to find one that's specific to your type of probe. They're not interchangeable or anything like that. You got to marry the two correctly. But between something like this on the low end, you're going to pay $50 for one. To this one was actually, this is one we used to sell. This is $150 for this guy. And this data meter, when I bought this 5 years ago, I think I paid like $250 for this. Now you can get them. So I won't name names, but the lowest price one that I've seen that I would recommend to somebody is about $175 for the meter, and you can easily spend into the several hundreds of dollars on a data meter. So 50 to 150, and then 175 onward. The HydroPro Plus includes all of this for $100 extra bucks. It's a no-brainer. If you want to cook with the probe, if you want to dose the cook, if you have to HACCP log, the HydroPro Plus is a no-brainer.
And I will say for home cooks, if you're interested in exploring the probe to see if it's something you're interested in, learning more about, I do have a whole article about why using a probe is great, and Dave and I are going to dive into it even for home cooks. But there are things like the meat stick is, I think they have it for like $90. It doesn't do nearly as much as like the Hydro Pro and stuff, but it can give you an idea of starting to monitor how the temperature gradients do work. You can put it in the bag and seal it in the bag. And I fooled around some. It has some hiccups that I wasn't content with, and I'm going to get a Hydro Pro so I can do actual good, like, a lot higher quality probing. But it is something you can kind of explore, like doing sous vide, in a beer cooler the first few times to see if you like it before you make an investment.
Hydro Pro Plus is what we're going to get in your hands. So you've got the probe. The meat stick and those are great. They're very big. They're very thick, so they leave a large hole in the food is one thing. And also, we've explored that technology, and you have a battery nesting inside your food in a moist, sealed environment. I know it says you can use it for sous vide cooking. We believe me, we've explored it. That's just my opinion. I would go with something like this setup.
Yeah. You also can't move your phone more than 5 feet away from your sous vide thing for a very long time, which is I like to be able to wander around my house when I'm cooking.
And that's the biggest. Okay, so with a data meter like this, there's multiple types. There's one that just reads natively, and the data is stored here. You have to extract it somehow. There's ones that operate over Bluetooth, and there's ones that operate over Wi-Fi. And when you go from Bluetooth, from all of those gaps, when you cross those gaps, there are large jumps in prices. And this one is a Bluetooth meter, which means I connect it to my iPad because, you can't get it more than 15 feet away or have a closed door in between before it starts saying, hey, there's a problem. And if you get the Wi-Fi one, at the time that I bought this, the Wi-Fi was just grossly expensive. Again, technology's come down, make it cheaper. But Wi-Fi, it still needs that. With the HydroPro Plus, it reads data straight to the meter, and then it'll connect to your phone over Bluetooth. And you can connect multiple appliances and such. So we separate the Bluetooth problem and say, okay, when you're ready to extract logs, then you can access them over Bluetooth. And once they're in your phone, they're in your phone. You don't need to be standing near the appliance or anything like that. So a chef could, I'm getting a bit ahead of myself here, but a chef could go to all of his restaurants, grab logs from all of his places. Well, actually, again, kidding. You know what? I'm just going to save that later. Let's talk about sharing logs, extracting them, and distributing logs later, because I'm putting the cart before the horse here. So
Richard Jensen had a question here. He said, so if you're using the probe, you have to have thawed the protein. Is there a problem starting your protein from frozen and then inserting the probe partway through the cook so you get the readings to finish it off?
I wouldn't because first of all, I'm not a big, Jason, we talked about this. I am not a big fan of cooking from frozen anyway. It takes approximately 1.5 times your cook time. And as we're going to talk about with Delta cooking and all that, my goal is always to decrease my cook time, never extend it. I never want to extend sous vide cook times. You want to cook, Alex Talbot from Ideas in Food, I heard him say it once, and it stuck with me because it's absolute. You want to cook as long as you have to, but as short as you possibly can. So I'm always trying to decrease my cook times. Who's to say also that food is frozen, is thawed to the core? You don't know that. You're going to hit some ice when you stick that probe in. And when you stick frozen food in a bath, the outside, it's not all going to thaw at the same rate. The outside is going to, so your surface temperatures go up way faster than your core temperatures. Eventually, it's on a curve. You know this. It's on a curve, and everything will start to kind of equalize after a while. But it's just not a method that I would champion. There's a better way to do it, and that would be start from fresh and start with the probe in there. And if you're logging something anyway, you probably want to see that full range. If you start midway through your cook, nope, there's not a point in that.
No.
Great question, Richard. Thank you for asking.
I like that 2 people have commented that I got a haircut, and it's just because I didn't shower this morning, so my hair is doing some really weird wavy thing in the front. But I'm glad it looks like I got it cut, and not that it's just messy and a disaster today.
I think hair looks beautiful. How's mine?
Yours looks perfect. It's spot on.
Thank you. It's perm. What else? Let's talk about calibration. So let's talk about the probe and calibration and stuff like that. And of course, I left it just out of reach. So let me grab one of my other props and give me half of a second. It's right over here. 2 seconds.
Cool. And calibration, especially when you're doing a probe, is big. I remember one of the other devices I was testing out, like it gave me how long it took to get to like 2 degrees higher than the water bath was set for. And I was like, that's not right. It never got to that temperature. I don't know why it's telling me it did.
Yeah, so that is a common problem. And every probe has an inherent inaccuracy. All probes have some plus or minus that they are good to across a specific temperature range. That's just how probes work. If you start really looking into probes and different types of probes that are available and different types of temperature reading devices, they're all good at different ranges. You can find stuff that's rated in kelvins. I don't know if you're trying to measure the heat of the sun, or I don't know. You can find stuff that's accurate in our cooking range, let's say 32 to 212, or 0 to 100, and then you see things from.
Everyone knows that the best sous vide sears happen on the surface of the sun.
I have grievances with that's burn the food after it's cooked. I have problems with that, but we'll address that at another time. I have my own thoughts on searing. What else? So probe. So this right here, this is a probe calibration holder. So this little guy will protect the probe during storage. So it slips right in. As I'm like fumbling here. Slips right in.
It goes right into your knuckle very easily, as you can see.
It is sharp enough to puncture, but it's also safe. Another hey, we thought of that. So actually, I'm gonna move. There we go, a little more in frame. So this actually clips pretty securely into the holder, and then this will clip to the side of your bath. And then you can run, it'll actually has a setting in here. It'll prompt you yearly for a calibration reminder, just to ensure that it's still reading accurately across sous vide cooking temperature ranges. And the machine will also perform a multi-point calibration across that temperature range. Like I said, you can do it, you can set up a yearly reminder or do it as often as you like. Some people, their health inspector or whatever might say, no, I want probe calibration every week or quarterly when I stop by or whatever it is. Fine, you can do that. So you're not beholden to just that once a year. So comes with that. And then again, you can use the calibration holder safe storage as well. What else about the probe? So this is another one of those, over engineering things that we did, but I'm really proud of it. So, so this probe is actually a smart probe. So you see here, this little nugget right here is pretty fat. Inside there is actually a PC board, and this probe will remember its own calibration information, because let's assume you had 2 of these circulators, and in a restaurant, it's not uncommon for somebody to have 5 to 7 of our circulators. So we see that very common. So if you were to take this probe and let's just say calibrate it off of let's say +1, and then calibrate another probe -1, no matter what circulator you're using, it will read that. Otherwise, what you're doing is offsetting this. It's offsetting the meter that's reading. This probe right here, this probe is dumb. It has no smarts inside of it. It doesn't remember its own offset. This remembers it. So then if I go stick a probe that has a different inaccuracy in here, now I've just created a problem for myself. And that's common practice. I've got this probe, I've got this circulator, I'm going to stick it in there and kind of go from there. And when we were engineering this thing, our engineer said, "That's crazy. Why would you even do that? That's bizarre." And we said, "Yeah, but that's what people do. Just make it this way." And they said, "No, can't do it." And so we spent like literally months working on this solution. So now our probe has a microchip or a PC board embedded in it. And again, something like this is going to run you $50 to $100. I'm pretty sure these probes with the PC board are like 30. They're like 30 to 50 or something like that. So again, just over engineered and affordable. What else about calibration? We talked about that. So let's get into delta cooking. So to recap, we talked about what it is that you need to cook something with a probe. We talked about the pieces themselves, the probe, data meter, HydroPro Plus and all of its features, calibration. Any questions on that? Or I guess we can get into what is delta cooking, that thing that I've been keep talking about, and why you would do it and all that stuff. So any questions?
We look like we're pretty good. I'm ready for delta cooking. That's once I learned of that, it's nice to be able to shave off a huge % of your cooking time.
Yep. Again, I'm always looking at what's the fastest way that we can cook this thing and get it in an exact result. And delta cooking is how you do that. You shave off cook time, but you still retain the benefits and precision of sous vide cooking, because you're using a probe to say, hey, I'm almost at that temperature, I'm at that temperature. And then you have options. You can take the food out of the bath, you can lower the temperature of the bath, you can rest the product. There's all sorts of things you can do. With sous vide cooking, when you cook, it kind of diverges. Am I going to eat this now? Yes or no? I'm going to sear it. Okay, I'm going to cool it. Am I going to cool it and then serve it? Or am I cool it, reheat it, and then serve it? Or am I cool it, reheat it, sear it, serve it? There's all these options that are open to you, and that's the same thing with this. It gives you options. So delta cooking, the main reason to do it is shaving off cook time. It can be used to pasteurize the exterior of the food as part of the cooking process. So I'll talk about that in a moment. And it can also be used to create textural contrast. I see so many people posting their salmon, posting their chicken, and they cook it in an equilibrium bath. I want to cook my chicken to 66, and I'm going to cook it in a bath at 66, and then they get rubber chicken or salmon, and it's like eating a stick of butter. And when you first start cooking sous vide, you've never had textures like that. You've never experienced that before, and it is amazing to you. But after a while, and once you try delta cooking, you realize that there's this whole other world of textures and possibilities that are much more interesting and much more pleasing to eat. I see people are like, yeah, I've got this exterior, and it's like this much of it is red, and this much of it is crust. And I'm like, no, actually, some crust is a good thing. It gives you texture. I'm sorry, I'm not living in a nursing home yet. I can use a little bit of texture in my food, right? So there are reasons to introduce texture during the cooking process, whether it's searing or through delta cooking. What else? So delta cooking is cooking in a bath that's set hotter than where you want to finish. It's hotter than your desired core temperature. 2 to 4 C is what's common. and that will shave off 30 to 50% of your cook time. Beyond that 4C mark, you really start seeing diminishing returns. Even after 2C, you kind of start seeing diminishing returns, but you'll get a little bit of a text. That's kind of where you start getting textural contrast as opposed to time savings per se, is at that like 4 or 5C mark and beyond.
Yeah, I was really surprised when I did that and looked at it. It was like 1.5 inch thick piece, because I know the thickness matters. And it was something like that last half degree took like 45 minutes. The half degree before that took like 30 minutes. And the full degree before that took like 15 minutes. Like right there was an hour and a half of like the 4-hour cooking. But another degree lower than that would have shaved off 5 minutes and then like 3 minutes. And it's just like, it heats up very quickly and then just slows.
Yeah, you get diminishing returns. And actually, so if you read, and I don't actually know if it's published in the Modernist Cuisine Big Book, but it is in a video that I saw somewhere at some point. Nathan was discussing how he doesn't believe that actually the food actually ever reaches equilibrium. It's just the ability, the limitation of probes that are available to the nth degree to see how far away I can tell you that, yeah, this is 61.9 degrees or whatever, but guess what? It's probably 61.9843016, so you're not actually at 6.2. You're super close, but it's as accurate as that probe can read. So he actually says the food doesn't reach it, and that's part of the reason that they say cook with a 2C delta. And if you look in the Modernist charts, they tell you cook with a 2C delta.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about cooking strategies using the probes, different delta cooking strategies.
This was one of my favorite things at the CREA class was, and what I learned from you from doing the salmon demo at the first ISVA conference, is introducing higher temperatures or lower temperatures to add in textures and make the food taste more like and feel more like you want it to feel. And it was great seeing them side by side and trying them out.
Yep. Yeah, and looking back on that, I realized I kind of went through that pretty fast. Again, I go to AJ and I said, "Do you ever think you're going to walk into a room and tell people everything they already know?" And she said, "Nope." And I kind of I go up to this crowd and I'm like, "Oh, they know this. They're going to grab onto it really quickly." And then I realized I kind of breezed through that. So apologies.
Everyone in the audience's head was just going like exploding, and David just like, "Okay, on to the next thing." We're like, "Wait, what? What the hell did you just drop on us? That was amazing."
Yeah, I fielded a lot of questions on that one, and I actually think the probe something went wrong. I can't recall which, but I think the probe slipped out when I was pulling it out of the bath or something like that. But I recovered. But we'll go into it now. So a low temperature approach would be that's the OG method of sous vide cooking. I want to reach this temperature. I'm going to set my bath to that temperature. And that's great. That's where most people start. And that's a comfortable place, and you're going to get a great result. You can hold your food there with a huge margin of a huge window of success, and you're going to be okay. But again, there's missed opportunities for texture, pasteurization, texture and pasteurization. So when we start to use a 2 degree delta, we shave off 30 to 50% of cooking time. And you can also use a high temperature delta, which I think is what we say was, when we saw it the first time, it was like, what did you just do? What's happening here? So this is where you set the bath temperature much higher. So let's say we're going to, and I actually have some demo here that we'll work through so you all can see it, where we set the bath to 83, 84, 85 C, somewhere in those high 80s.
That's Celsius, so that's 180, 185 Fahrenheit, like where you cook vegetables at, basically.
Yeah, very hot, far above our normal protein cooking temperatures. I mean, honestly, I will cook chuck if I want to break it down. And I want a traditional result. I will sometimes cook it in like the 180s at like quote unquote a simmer, just to kind of replicate that result. Options with sous vide.
Yeah, great for relays. That's why I do pork relays, because it still breaks it down completely.
Yeah, people. I see this all the time. How come my fat didn't render? Well, you didn't cook it hot enough. It's not going to render. It's like, I wish it's so fatty. render it before you put it in the bag. Render it before you put it in the bag, cool it down, or cut it out, glue it back together, remove the fat some other way. Because guess what? You're not rendering a ton of fat at 140 degrees. Yep. So again, so this high temperature approach, we're cooking in the 180 range, and then we're going to pull the product out of the bat. So it's staying in the 180. We're not cooking in our normal low temperature. We're cooking in the 180 degree range, and we're going to bring the product up to temperature very quickly, and then remove it from that bath, and quite literally just let it rest and carry over, like you would a turkey in your oven or something like that. It's carry over cooking. So we pull the food product before it's ready, and then allow it to carry over. So how do you know when to pull the food? So that's something that you would need the probe for. So you would pull it depending on what the food product is and the food type, and this would have to be a little bit of trial and error on your part. And also you want to do this with thick pieces of food because it's not the same across the board. So anything around like a 1.5 inch piece of whatever the heck it is kind of where you want to start playing with this. And start with a delta of about 10C. If you overshoot, back it down from there. So let's say I'm cooking at 83C, and someone's going to translate for me in the comments here. We all know that I speak in Celsius.
Yeah, you dropped the 140 Fahrenheit earlier, and I almost fell out of my chair. I was like, we're trading them so much here.
Yeah, I know. I understand that I do have to cater to my audience. I aim to please, folks. I do. But enough of these, and it's going to start to stick with you as it did with me. So we're going to cook at 83, let's say, and these pork chops that I did earlier, I want a core temperature of 62. I pulled them when the probe read 52, and then allowed them to carry over, and sure enough, boom, I hit 62. So start in let's say 83, which I think is 183 Fahrenheit, give or take. I'm sure there's a decimal. Yeah. There's a decimal point in there somewhere too, I'm pretty sure. Take that, cook it to core 10 degrees below your desired, and pull it from there. And then you simply just let it rest on the counter. And then you'll watch, again, this is with the probe, watch it and see what the highest temperature that it reaches. Once the probe starts to back down, then you can begin your cooling or say, okay, this is the point at which I'm going to serve it. So I'll show you guys what that looks like with an actual piece of food that I have just out of frame. And it should be noted, so the low temperature approach, the 2 to 4C delta approach, and this high temperature approach, once you get used to cooking these, you can deploy all three methods for different reasons that you would want to. Maybe I want to just throw something in my bath. So let's talk about how you would use each one of these. So low temperature approach, maybe I want total mindlessness. I'm going to go mow the lawn. I'm going to go mow my neighbor's lawn, and then I'm going to wash the car. I know if I throw something in the bath set to whatever I want it to be, I got no worries, right? Give or take. So that's where I would use that one. Delta, hey, I've got some mind on it. This thing's got an alarm in it. You can also set, I didn't mention this, and that's my bad. You can assign a holding timer to the probe alarm. So you say, I want to reach 62 and set a pasteurization timer for 30 minutes, 50, whatever you want to pasteurize for. You can do that. So let's say I am going to, be around, be mindful or whatever. I just want to shave off cook time. I could use that approach. Or, hey, I want to replicate a traditional result. I want to introduce textural contrast. I have not pre-seared the product. I want to pasteurize the exterior in that 180 range as part of the cooking process. I'm going to deploy this cooking technique. Or if you have very good portioning skills, you can say, I'm going to set up a bath at 83 and I'm just going to drop product in and start a timer. Because guess what? If you've got a 2-inch thick product and another 2-inch product and another 2-inch product, it's predictable. They're all going to hit the same core temperature at the same amount of time. So through enough testing and through strict control over your portioning and stuff, you can say, all right, drop these chops in an 83 bath for 10 minutes, pull them out, let them rest for 15 minutes, and then serve it. You can get to that point. It's a trial and error process to get to there, but you can do that.
In the CREA class, they did this, so I'm assuming you would agree with it probably for this as well, that if you are cooking for a large group of people or something, and you want to do pork chops, like, you can use the single probe. If you make sure that the portion size is the same on all of them, you can probe the one and then monitor that one's temperature, and it'll get you pretty dang close on all the others, and you can assume that they're going to be heating at the same general temperature.
Yes, exactly. And I didn't touch that. Thank you for bringing that up. That complete
You don't need
oversight
50
there.
probes.
Yes, you do not need 50 probes. I know home cooks, they cook a single product or two, and they'll even bag it in the same bag. Restaurants were cooking multiple pouches with multiple pieces in each bag, or I might even be cooking multiple, 50 individual portions at once, just depending on, the scenario. You only need to probe the thickest piece to ensure that your other pieces is there. The way that I would do it is probe the median piece, or actually best practice would be thick, thins, and larges. Kind of group them together, group-like items, and then probe one from each category. But ideally, your portioning is really close. So yeah. What else? I think we should take a look at it, and I can put the proof. The proof is in the pudding, right? Or in this case, the pork chop. So, actually, do you want me to show the setting up the probe and setting up a probe cook in here? I didn't even do that.
Show us the proteins first, and then we can jump to the setup, I think. But I think seeing the difference in the proteins would be great.
Sure. So over here, and actually, let me grab a plastic. I have a rule in this house, and I cut no meat on my wood cutting board. So
I'm going to kick you full screen again too, because you have enough stuff there.
Yeah, sure. All right, so I've got 3 pork chops here. They were all approximately 36 millimeters. I measured them with a caliper, and I'm just really good at portioning. So these are all, for all intents and purposes, these were identical pieces of pork cut from the same loin of the exact same thickness. I think one might have been like 33 millimeters, but 3 millimeters, like, give me a break, right? Pretty good.
Disgusting how poor you are at cutting things, Dave.
It's a shame. So these are calipers. If no one's ever seen these, you can get these from like Home Depot, your whatever home supply store. If you want to measure food, this is the way to do it. You could of course use a ruler, but you're going to get a better reading with those. So here I've got my low temperature approach, a 4C delta, and a high temperature approach. So let's cut into what everybody's familiar with. And this is going to be fun. I'm either going to look like a genius or I'm going to look like an idiot, and they're all going to be cooked completely differently. I can't wait to find out which one it is. But
either way, we win. So it's worse for us.
Yeah, good for you. Bad for my reputation and my ego. All right, let's see here. All right, so this is, and these are all chilled. None of these are warm. I chilled them all down just for the sake of consistency. And I did these, I prepared these yesterday. All right, so this is the low temperature approach. So let's cut into this. I should say that I inserted the probe from kind of from the side in a way that I wouldn't normally do it. I kind of just did it for the sake of science. So there will be a hole running through this. If you were doing this for real and presentation, you would enter from a way in which minimizes the amount of probe that's been through your food. So you don't leave a hole in your food, and you leave a hole in less of your food. So let's cut into this. All right. So that is our low temperature approach. You can see there, it's a consistent temperature all the way throughout. Again, this was like a 36 mil piece. Somebody can run the inches on that or whatever it is. That's this guy. This was cooked in a bath at 62 to a core of 62, and it took bloody forever. That one took forever. What else here? So that's him. We're gonna put
143 Fahrenheit.
143 to a core 143. So that's our low temp guy. We're gonna kind of try to keep our labels straight here.
And 1 1/3 inches, 1.3 inches.
So okay, so just under 1.5 inches. So this is our 4C delta. So this is cooked at
66.
66 to a core 62.
So that's 150 Fahrenheit.
Okay, so that's what that looks like. Now this one has a little bit more textural contrast to it, let's say. But interior, So I'm going to keep, when I screw this up, the low temperature approach is by my thumb. You guys can see here, I mean, they're roughly identical, right? Because they both hit a core of 62C, but there's a reason. But I shaved off 30% of my cook time using that delta. Now let's cut into our high temperature approach.
Sounds like an hour faster, just about, something like that.
Yep. Yeah, that one's easy. I didn't lose sleep over that one. So now this is this guy right here is a high temperature approach. So this one was cooked at 83 to a core of 52, pulled, and then rested until it hit, I think its final core temperature, I think it hit like 62.7. I think it got up there, so it went a little bit over. But that method isn't highly accurate, but it is valid. So again, there's that one. Can you tell the difference in those three pieces? I'm going to say that you cannot. I can't. If I move these all around, I would not be able to tell the difference in all of those. Yeah. So the tortoise, the hare, and then the hare's bigger, better brother. So tying this back to HydroPro, this is something that you cannot do without a probe. Even that 4C Delta, Sous Vide Toolbox has a function in the HydroPro, which is called which we call Fast Cook, and that will enable a 2C Delta, which is going to get you some good time savings. But if you want to explore anything and beyond, or even have the ability to log those cooks, recall them, see kind of what happened, or if you need, again, HACCP logging, you cannot do that without the HydroPro Plus. And again, for $100 for everything that you get as what you'd have to spend a la carte, it's a no-brainer. So I guess I'll show you guys how to use how to engage the probe, and then if we've got time, actually we're pretty much capped on time, but if you guys are willing to entertain me.
Richard Jensen had another good question here. A lot of people will do, cook to pasteurization, and then you can chill it, and then you can store it in the refrigerator for an extended period of time once it's pasteurized, still in the bag. Yeah. If you use the probe in that piece, can you still do that, or does it reduce the length of time that you can store it afterwards because there's a small hole in the bag, or does it prevent it? Is it keep it a sterile enough environment?
In a best case scenario, you can either consume or discard it. In a worst case, in a best case scenario, in theory, you could be potentially pushing some. You have an opportunity to expose bacteria from the exterior to the core because you pass the needle from the exterior into the core. And if you pasteurize to a surface level and not a core level, you could have potentially that situation on your hands. So in the best case scenario, consume it or discard it.
Cool. And if you're like a home cook, or even if you're in a restaurant, like we were saying, you want to do 20 chicken breasts for the week or whatever, you can bag one individually, put the probe in that one, and eat that one for dinner that night, and then you could chill all the rest of them because as long as you use the thick one that you're probing in the bag, you'd be fine with the others. You'd know that they were safe and at the same temperature as the one that you probed, and then just store the rest of them.
Exactly, precisely. I couldn't have said it better myself.
You've trained me well.
That's good. All right, so I'll show you how we use the probe here because it's pretty simple. We worked really hard to make this workflow intuitive. So we go into our manual cook mode. Then let's say we're gonna just stick with our pork example to not lose anybody. So let's just say I'm gonna cook at 66. That core is 62. So I hit 66 and hit start. Now it asks me, hey, I see that you got a probe plugged in. Do you want to cook with the timer or cook with the probe? Today we're not talking about timers. We're talking about probes. So we're gonna select the probe. Right now it's running a priming cycle just to push out any air. So we'll let it do that. And now you see it's reading 30 because that's just the bath temperature water that it's in. So now we enter a core temperature for the probe. So we're going to say 62, set. That's it. Alarm's going to go off when it hits 62. That's simple. If you want to assign a holding time to the alarm, you can do that. Simply go to add holding time. And let's say I want to hold it for 15 minutes. Done. It's going to start a 15-minute timer once it hits 62. that simple. Talk about data logging. So, and this is going to continue to heat up so that we don't have alarms blaring at everybody. I'm just going to take it out of the bath. So data logging I have turned on in settings. There is again, HydroPro Plus only. There is a little gray dot in the corner of the screen. For grins, I'll see how close I can move this without it falling off my stainless table and onto the floor.
Let's put that durability to the test live on Exploring Sous Vide.
Let's not and say we did, all right? So actually, I'm not even worried about the circulator. I'm more worried about my brand new tile floor. So you hit this little clipboard here, and this is how you start your data logging process. It says enter your food name. You can get as granular as you want and say pork chop, whatever. We're just going to say pork, or if you can't spell like me, you're going to say pork. Next, enter a thickness, 36 mil. You can add multiple users. I forget the limit of how many, but it's obscene. It's not like one or two. It's tens or more. It's a lot. So we're gonna hit Dave, and it says, "Are you ready to log?" Start logging. Now it's got a little gray circle that's spinning around the little clipboard icon, and it's logging all of this information. When you've hit core temperature and you decided that your cook is complete, or you've cooled your product, this product will measure the cooking temperature, but also the cooling temperature. With HACCP, they need your cooking temperature data. They need your cooling temperature data, how quickly you did that, and then your storage temperature data. In addition to many other things, but regarding temperature, you've got to show all of that: cooking, cooling, and holding. And this will monitor cooking and cooling. So you could transfer it to an ice bath and it will log that. When that log is complete, you just hit the little clipboard again. It gives you a running scenario of all of those things: the name, who did it, current temperature, and the last cooked time. Stop the log, sit, it's done. You have a HACCP log. So I'll show you guys that workflow of how you harvest them from your device. And then Jason's got one that we can pull up on the screen and kind of show everybody a preview, because you viewing it from here is probably not an ideal experience. So we're going to go into the PolyScience HACCP Manager app, which is available on the iOS and Android store. HACCP Manager would like to use Bluetooth. Please do. So when you first begin, it asks you to select your language. It's available in English, French, German, and Spanish. We're going to say English. Then it has a few pretty screens. We connect to your device via Bluetooth. Let's see if it adjusts for exposure. It does not. So it says, hey, we connect to your device over Bluetooth. We generate PDFs that you can email, and you can share them. Via email or AirDrop or whatever it is. So we'll hit get started. And I had this all set up, but for you folks, I decided to clear it all out so you could kind of see what it does. So on this screen, you can enter all the information about your establishment, and you can enter multiple establishments. So if I'm Chef Dave and I have Flavor Bound Kitchen, I also have PolyScience Kitchen, and I have Test Kitchen, I can set up multiple establishments, and I can assign logs to different establishments. In case I'm cooking here, there, everywhere, and I want to kind of do all of my HACCP management through one app, totally fine. So you enter your establishment name, like you name your restaurant as an example, address, all of that, country, and then your HACCP variance number. When you're granted a HACCP variance, because you're cooking at low temperatures and pasteurizing is a function of time, and cooking in an reduced oxygen environment, your local health authority will ask you to apply for a variance, which they'll grant you as long as you have this plan in place and you're lucky enough. So that you enter your HACCP variance number, we'll hit skip. Ensure your appliance is powered on and nearby. It sees it right here, so we'll select it, hit continue. Now it's paired to that appliance. It says my logs have never been synced. Yes, they have, but again, I've cleared it for you nice folks, so we'll go ahead and hit sync. And now it is going to pull all of the logs that are in here. How many logs can it store? So it will store roughly a year's worth of logs. A log, it depends. It depends if you're cooking for 3 days or 30 minutes. What's a log, right? So we've estimated about a year's worth of cooking logs, no matter what your variety or what your, scenarios are. We've run so many scenarios. Like, okay, at Restaurant X cooks pork belly for 3 days. They also do fish for 30 minutes, 2 30-minute cooks per day. We've done all sorts of testing. You're going to get roughly a year of storage in here. And it will tell you when it is getting full, and it's going to say, hey, transfer your logs to your PolyScience Asset Manager app if you haven't done that. And then it will begin, if anybody's an Apple user out there and they're familiar with Time Machine and the way it backs up, it will delete the oldest to make room for the newest once the memory has become full. So now it says here, hey, here's all of my logs. I've got chicken, strip steak, skirt steak, 4C Delta pork, high temp pork, belly. All of my logs that are here because they've never been synced are here. I can filter between a date range and say, okay, I want to pull all of my logs from last week and print them out. You can do that. Filter, select your date range on the calendar. Go ahead and do that. Bob's your uncle. You can also filter. By a log name or establishment. Say, I want to pull all of the logs from Flavor Bound Kitchen. I want to pull all of the logs from PolyScience Kitchen, and I want to pull all the logs from Test Kitchen. And you can do those all separately. You can also filter by status, all sent and unsent. So it'll say, hey, this one's is synced to me, but you've never done anything with it. So you can say, I want to filter by all of these from this establishment that I've already sent or not sent. Or by log name. I want to search for everything that's pork. I want to grab all my beef logs. So you can filter in a variety of ways very simply with this. So now let's just say we're going to choose my high temp pork. And Jason, if you want to pull that up here. Okay, cool. So you can preview this on, try to grab this real quick and just, can you have that in the waiting and just kind of see my phone? I know it's awful. There we go. There we go. You can preview the log on your phone. You can preview the log there, and then you hit up in the top. You can hit send. It'll generate the PDF, and it'll open email or share. So I can AirDrop it to my Mac. I can text it to my super. I can email my health inspector. I can send it to a wireless printer. Whatever you want to do with it. It's that simple. So you want to go ahead and pull up that log and we'll kind of show people what's on it. So here, this is the high temperature pork that we did. Let's see. So it gives you the date. It's very hard to read it from over here. It's small text. So it's got the date, product supplier. So let's say this came from Slagle Farms. Again, HACCP is all about traceability. So you can put your the food product supplier there. Where it was cooked, HACCP variance number, what's the address, number 1 Happy Street. If anybody gets that reference, you've won me over. What unit it was cooked in, who did it, and then it has a line for approved by and date because HACCP logs are typically signed off on by a manager. So a cook, maybe a sous chef, a commis, whoever may be doing the cooking, and then the chef at the end of the day, end of the week, end of the month, whatever it is, will go through and sign off that all of these logs have occurred and they meet their standards. Underneath that, you have the name of what was cooked, the thickness, the highest temperature reached, the cook duration, and then key cooking events. So you see this one, I didn't chill at all. I just cooked it, and I didn't log the chill cycle. I just stopped logging it once I hit core temperature. And that's that. And then if you scroll down a little bit more, you'll see a cooking log. It takes logs every 10 minutes. And then it says, is any corrective action necessary? So you could see here, like, oh, hey, the temperature dropped for 3 hours in the middle of the night with this short rib. Okay, that's not good. We need what's the corrective action? Find that the company bag of short rib, which is labeled in such a way, and discard it, right? Who verified that, and then what was the action that was taken? If there's corrective action necessary, that person signed in dates as well. So this is a very good HACCP log that does key cooking events from heating and cooling. You still need to monitor your cold storage in whatever way works for you, but the cooking and cooling of the food product we handle here.
It's awesome.
It's pretty cool. We worked really hard on this.
Richard Jensen wanted to know, what's the temperature range of the Hydro Pro, both on the lower and the higher end?
94. 90. Let's find out. It's 90. Let's try to set it for 94. Pretty sure it's 90. And there's a reason for that. Maximum temperature set point is 90. So these are, yeah, and that's hotter than you would really cook anything. The only thing that I would do there is green vegetables anyway, or like potatoes or something for a puree. And 90 C is plenty hot to do that. You don't need to really go beyond that. 90 is completely acceptable. This is again, an IPX7 waterproof. There's a vacuum inside of this. They're assembled literally in a vacuum, and so that no moisture has ever been in there or could possibly get in there. Funny things happen when you start to create heat inside of an appliance that has no ventilation. It gets really hot in there. So to ensure the longevity of the appliance, again, we build things to last for a very, very long time. We cap the maximum cook temperature at 90 C, which again, plenty suitable anyway. That's 194 Fahrenheit.
What is it on the low end if you wanted to, like some of us adventurous home cooks will, throw ice in a circulator set to the lowest temperature to chill like,
a beer?
Bottles. Yeah.
Yeah, to chill a beer. I've done that. I think it's 32. Give me a second. Let's put, no, I hit go. That's it. With timer, let's close this. Let's try 0 C. Yeah, 0.
Oh, cool.
Yep. Any other questions about HydroPro and HydroPro Plus?
Can you give us the price points again on the two versions?
Yep. $499 for the HydroPro, and then for the Steel, the low price of $599, and all the great features that we've discussed and seen today, you get the HydroPro Plus at $599.
It comes not only do you get the circulator, but you also get a probe.
And my cell phone number.
You also get or closed cell foam tape as well.
And Dave's cell phone number, which is priceless, right? There was something I was going to say, and they're available through our website, PolyScienceCulinary.com. You can find them through Williams Sonoma, Sur La Table, JV Prince, Culinary Convenience, all of our distributors. On the commercial side, you can find them at Williams Sonoma, Sur La Table website. You can go to our website directly, PolyScienceCulinary.com, or you can go to the ISVA page and go to their link there. If you like these guys as much as I do and you want to support them, you can link it from their website, and that supports Jason and Mike a little bit.
Richard Jensen wants to know, but what do I get if I act by midnight tonight?
Crisp high five. You get a crisp high five.
I wanted a clarification here. Sheldon Penner was talking about, he does a lot of catering. He was talking about, Wi-Fi is nice, but your machine might be different than your phone. But the HydroPro, all of those logs and everything are stored on the machine itself until you decide to sync them up at basically within a year, you were saying, at any point.
Yeah. Yep. We try to make it as easy as possible. How lazy could you be and still get your logs? A year. So the logs, after you stop the log, it's stored here. You cannot access it within the appliance. And that was done intentionally so that anybody, not just anybody, sort of has access to the appliance. They have to have the app and all of that, and then pair to the appliance so that they could see it. So you also have to be within a range of the appliance to harvest it. Again, that was done with intent because let's just say, for whatever reason, you had somebody in your dining room and this happened to be own one as well, and so that they would connect to your appliance. We kind of eliminated that scenario. So you need to be within a close proximity to the appliance, have the app and the appliance, and you can sync to it. There is also a pairing code that can negate that as well. So there are some protections in place. All of that done with intent.
Awesome. Well, Chef, thank you so much for coming on, showing off the probe. It was great talking about some of that. It is such an underutilized thing that home cooks can do. Is I know how important it is in professional kitchens to cook food quickly, but I think for a lot of home cooks that, especially when the world gets back to normal, when you're getting home from work, to be able to cook a steak or a chicken breast and shave off, a half hour or 45 minutes off your cook time with no downside is a huge use case.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And again, let's not discount the Hydro Pro, the base model. That's still got sous vide toolbox in it. So again, it'll tell you how to cook pretty much anything and everything that I could think of cooking sous vide, except for cocktail infusions. But we couldn't really narrow down times and temperatures in there that were worked across pretty much everything. So that's why cocktails are the one thing that's not in here. That's why you get my cell phone numbers in the box with purchase. But Sous Vide Toolbox does have the fast cook function, so it will enable a 2C delta and tell you exactly when it's going to be done. So you could cook with the 2C delta with either model, but really the Sous Vide Toolbox, it does that calculation to say, okay, here's when it's done.
Well, awesome, Chef. I appreciate you coming on. It's a great machine. It does some really cool stuff, and it's nice to see PolyScience come out with their new flagship. It's always a fun day. It's like Christmas when that comes around.
Yeah, it's been 15 years since we released the classic series. Now we call it, but the time was the 7306. 10 years since we released the Chef series, so it was time for the new king to take his place. But yeah, thank you for having me for what is this, the fourth time, not including all the things that we've done, all the little showcases and all of that stuff. Who knows? I might make we'll see if I can make an appearance for the date night showcase. We'll see. But definitely vegetarian. I'll see you for that. And yeah, thanks for having me and PolyScience for all of this stuff.
Oh, we really appreciate it. And thanks to everyone for joining in on the comments and listening. It's always great having you contribute. To everyone listening on the podcast, remember you can join us live every Thursday when we record these episodes. Next Thursday, tune in. We have Chef Scott Guerin from Modernist Pantry. We're going to be talking about not only some of the sous vide things that he does, but also a lot of the cool modernist cooking that you can do with some very simple ingredients. I've written a few books about modernist cooking as well. I don't know it as well as sous vide, but I do know how to make spheres and foams and gels and a bunch of amazing stuff like that, which should be, I think we might be doing a few demos as well. So you have to tune in to check that out. So join us every Thursday. You can ask the guest questions, talk to other cooks in the comments, and even see our smiling faces. That's all at afmeasy.com/show. This has been Exploring Sous Vide, where I'll help you get the most out of your sous vide machine while talking to some of the biggest names in the industry. Till next time, I'm Jason Logston. See you next Thursday.
Bye.